Eddie Hearn, the $1 billion man. Now, most of you have probably heard by now that Eddie Hearn has signed a deal with British-based media company Perform Group, specifically to organize and promote boxing events on their online streaming service called The Zone. The deal includes 16 US-based fight cards a year over the course of 8 years with a budget of $1 billion. So this is obviously a very big deal. Now, there are going to be many out there, and I've already seen them reacting to interviews with Eddie Hearn on Fight Hub TV and FightHype.com, IFL, etc. I've seen these people in the comments viciously angry, upset, saying that Eddie Hearn will never succeed, praying that Eddie Hearn fails, etc., etc. If you are one of those people, you are not a boxing fan. Facts. If you're a boxing fan, then you'll at least be interested in seeing what Eddie Hearn has got to offer here. Because my understanding of it, based upon the information that has been made available so far, this service will be something similar to Box Nation in the UK. All right, this is an American service, but Box Nation in the UK is not an online streaming service, but in terms of the way you pay for it, Box Nation, you pay a monthly fee. It used to be £10, which is, I guess, about $15. And you'd pay once a month, and there was no long-term contract. You could end whenever you wanted to. So if you wanted to just pay for 1 month, the first month was free, but after that, if you wanted to just pay for 1 month and leave it alone after a month, you could do it. Kind of like Netflix, right? With Netflix, you can sign up for a month and you can keep your subscription ongoing, but anytime you want to cancel it, you can cancel it. That's what Box Nation have been doing for a couple years in the UK, although it wasn't on, well, they do have an online streaming service, but it was mainly cable or satellite based, right? Eddie Hearn's new venture with The Zone appears to be Box Nation on steroids for the US market. That's what it appears to be. A huge budget of $1 billion, a budget which Eddie Hearn claims is more than the budget of HBO and Showtime combined. Huge, huge budget. He'll be putting on 16 shows in the US a year, plus another 16 British shows will be screened on The Zone. So essentially, The Zone subscribers will get 32 shows a year for, I mean, the rumor is it's going to be like $20, maybe $30. So you're going to get all of that content a month, right? So you're going to get all that content, several shows a month, or maybe a couple shows a month, whatever it's going to be. You're going to get all that content for, what, $20? And some of these shows, I think Eddie Hearn said the plan is to have 12 regular championship shows. He said an Andre Ward versus Sergey Kovalev, that kind of fight would be a regular championship show. A pay-per-view style show would be a bigger fight than that. But on The Zone, those big fights, the mega fights, they won't be pay-per-view. It will still all be covered under the monthly price. They said there is going to be no pay-per-view on The Zone at all. So, yeah, it's interesting. And if you're a real boxing fan, you're going to be interested to see how this goes. If you're a real boxing fan, you won't be praying that this venture fails. If you're praying that this venture fails, if you're saying it's going to fail and you're hoping it fails, you're not a real boxing fan. Because at the end of the day, it don't matter whether you like the promoter or you dislike the promoter in terms of his personality. All that matters is what product is he delivering for you. And not only that, if you care about boxers, because I care about boxers, if he is delivering good fight purses for boxers, keeping them active, then I'm all for it. Because in America right now, you got a lot of Al Haymon fighters who have been sitting on the shelf and they haven't been active. And I like Al Haymon. I think Al Haymon was very bold and tried to do a lot of great things for boxing. He did do a lot of great things for boxing with PBC, but it didn't quite work out as well as he hoped, and it certainly didn't work out as well as I had hoped. That's why PBC has had to scale back, streamline their business model, and now PBC does far fewer shows than they did when they initially came on the scene. And as a result of doing far fewer shows, their fighters are far less active. So in comes Eddie Hearn, and potentially he has a platform which could give a lot of fighters the opportunity to fight more often and earn good money. If you are not for that, you are not a boxing fan. And there's a lot of people right now on YouTube, on social media, particularly from the United States, who are not real boxing fans. They're just not. They're here to hype the Joshua Wilder beef, and they're not really boxing fans. If you're a real boxing fan, you'll be interested to see what Eddie Hearn's venture can do, and you will be hoping that it does succeed. That's what I was doing when Al Haymon came on the scene. In fact, you can go back and look at my video where I pulled up Eddie Hearn about the fact that he was dissing Al Haymon. Yeah, you go back and look at my video where Eddie Hearn was talking about, oh, Haymon is paying fighters too much. And I made a video pulling Eddie Hearn up about that, saying, yo, what are you doing? He's paying fighters too much. Al Haymon's doing great things for fighters. Yeah? So, for me, my loyalty lies with the fighters ultimately. Not with promoters or anything like that. It lies with the fighters. And obviously, as a fan, I favor the fighters who give the fans what they want. But I'm always going to put fighters over promoters, you know? So, with that being said, if you're a real boxing fan, if you care about fighters, then you are going to hope that Eddie Hearn's venture succeeds. However, I have to reserve judgment about whether or not I think this venture will succeed. I don't know whether it will. I'm not going to come out here and tell you, oh, this is it. Eddie Hearn's going to revolutionize the world of boxing and it's going to turn out incredible and it's going to be great. I'm not going to sit here and tell you that. He's been given a lot of money. He's been given a platform. But the crucial thing, which Eddie Hearn does not yet have, is the product. The fighters. 16 shows a year in the United States. He's going to need to get signing a hell of a lot of fighters in order to fill those shows. Now, Hearn has said that he's willing to work with other promoters, just like he has done with his past 2 shows in New York State. Well, one of them was at the Barclays, the other one was at the Nassau Coliseum in Long Island. So, yeah, he said he's willing to work with other promoters. He says that fighters could come and fight on this new platform on a 1-fight deal if they wanted to. They don't have to sign to him long term. They could just come in, fight there. If they don't like it, go elsewhere and do whatever they want to do. So there's flexibility there, which is good. Which is something that Eddie Hearn does with fighters in the UK, by the way, if you're not aware. Dylan White is not signed to a long-term contract with Eddie Hearn. A lot of the American viewers might not know this. Dylan White is not signed to a long-term contract with Eddie Hearn. Neither is Tony Bellew, by the way. Yeah, you go watch Tony Bellew interviews where he talks about what he has with Eddie Hearn. In fact, I swear Tony Bellew said he doesn't actually have a contract with Eddie Hearn. No long-term contract. He deals with Eddie Hearn on a fight-by-fight basis. So when a fight comes up, they put a contract together for that particular fight. And that's it. But there's no long-term contract, like a specific number of fights. No, Bellew don't have a deal like that with Eddie Hearn. And neither does Dylan White. They are actually free, if they want, to go and fight on another platform at any time. They're not locked into some long-term situation with Hearn that they can't get out of. No, they have freedom. And so this is what Eddie Hearn is also talking about on his new platform, on the Zone. So I hope it succeeds, but I don't know whether it will. It all comes down to, can he get the talent? Can he get the fighters? And the current climate in American boxing right now is very strange, because Hearn is at the center of this Joshua Wilder negotiation, which has pitted the American boxing market against the British boxing market in a hostile way. British boxing fans and American boxing fans are bumping heads right now. And it's almost like America has tried to close ranks, and they don't want to let no British people in. I'm not saying all Americans, but a lot of Americans, this is how they're behaving. The promoters, other than Bob Arum, because Bob Arum was quite complimentary of Eddie Hearn, but a lot of the other promoters, certainly the Lou DiBellas of the world and what have you, they've closed ranks along with a lot of the fans, and have become hostile towards Eddie Hearn because they see this as the British invasion. And they're getting very patriotic about it, and they don't really care about whether it benefits fighters. I'm talking from the American fans' perspective now. They don't really care about if it benefits fighters. They just care about patriotism. It's a misplaced sense of patriotism. You know, they would rather their own fighters in the United States stay on the shelf and don't get fights and don't get paid. They would rather that than Eddie Hearn come in and win, and also allow these American fighters to get shows, you know, to get fights and get active. They would rather those fighters, their own American fighters, they would rather they starve than Eddie Hearn be successful and those fighters eat. That's how sad it is. But that's what it is. But again, to clarify my position on this, I do not know if this venture of Eddie Hearn's is going to be successful. And in the current climate, how easy is it going to be for Eddie Hearn to sign fighters? Are these fighters going to show loyalty? Like, are they going to have this misplaced sense of patriotism and say, I ain't going to sign with Hearn? I ain't going to sign with this British guy. He thinks he's going to come in and take over American boxing. He ain't even from our country. We ain't going to sign with this guy. Is that the attitude that a lot of American fighters are going to come with? Are they going to get swept up in this misplaced sense of patriotism? Or are they going to see the bigger picture? Are they going to see the light at the end of the tunnel and say, well, this guy's got $1 billion. He's got a huge budget, a bigger budget than Showtime or HBO. I need to look at this guy as an option, especially when he's saying that he's going to be flexible and he's not necessarily signing everybody to a long-term deal. I need to explore this option. We'll see how the fighters react. One of the Charlos apparently left a cryptic tweet online that some people are talking about, which he posted on Twitter moments after Eddie Hearn came out with his big announcement. And the tweet said something like, all they have to do is call, you know, whatever it was, something like that. So people are speculating maybe Charlo is looking to sign with Hearn. Interestingly, Big Baby Miller was at this press conference, right? Big Baby Miller is not signed with Eddie Hearn. So it's interesting that he was at this press conferences. I need to see the interview actually with Big Baby Miller and see what he's saying. I'm guessing he's going to be fighting on this platform, because even though he's not signed to Hearn, he's clearly working quite closely with Hearn, isn't he? He's been on Hearn's past 2 shows in the United States. So we'll see what happens there. But yeah, jury is out for me. I want to see what fighters Hearn can actually sign. If he manages to sign a whole heap of fighters, then maybe I'll start believing. But at the moment, it's just, it's a great idea. Okay, you got the money. You act like you're serious. Let's see if you can get the fighters. And the fighters he's targeting are mainly Al Heyman fighters, because Al Heyman is not officially a promoter. So it's therefore not illegal for Eddie Hearn to approach Al Heyman fighters, because he's not a promoter, Al Heyman. And some people say this, oh my God, well, look at Hearn stealing Heyman's fighters. Excuse me, Al Heyman stole Golden Boy's fighters. Did he not? Yes, he did. The vast majority of Al Heyman's original stable were Golden Boy fighters that he stole from Golden Boy. And I weren't complaining, by the way, when Heyman stole them fighters, because he took them off and put them in, for the most part, a better situation. And as I say, I think Al Heyman has been great for boxing overall. But if Eddie Hearn can be even better for the fighters, and right now PBC is not doing that great, PBC fighters are not that active, a lot of them. So if Eddie Hearn can take some Heyman fighters and put them in an even better situation, I'm all for it. This is what you have to understand. My loyalty lies with the fighters ultimately. Yeah? It ultimately lies with the fighters. So if Eddie Hearn is giving them the best deal this week, then I'll support what Eddie Hearn is doing. But if Al Heyman comes back and he's giving them a better deal on a better platform next week, then all of a sudden I'm switching sides and I'm back over to Al Heyman. Whoever's doing best for the fighters and for the fans, that's who I'm going to support. Because I'm a fan. Obviously, I want to see the fights. So it's all well and good treating your fighters well, but are you going to be putting on good fights? Al Heyman did both. He treated fighters well and he put on good fights. It's just, unfortunately, the American public didn't receive PBC as well as Al Heyman had hoped, as well as I had hoped, and as well as the sport really deserves. Al Heyman was, in the first year of PBC, putting boxing on all types of different networks, all types of different stations. World Championship boxing for free. And the American public just shrugged their shoulders and turned the channel and watched the game show. Like, people weren't tuning in the way they were supposed to be tuning in for PBC. So Heyman and PBC were forced to scale back and streamline their business to the point where now PBC don't put on that many shows compared to when they first launched. So, Heyman did both, but at this point he can't give his fighters that much exposure and he can't give them that much work at the moment. So hopefully Eddie Hearn will be able to do it. We'll see, people. We'll see. The jury is out for me. I don't know whether he'll be able to achieve it. It's too early to say. Let's see who we can sign, and then maybe we can get a better idea of where this is actually going. Let me know how you feel in the comment section below, people, about Eddie Hearn, the $1 billion man. He's like Ted DiBiase on steroids. Oh gosh. And I forgot what I was going to say now. I had something else to add at the end there about Eddie Hearn. Oh yeah, that's what it was. Eddie Hearn's dad, Barry Hearn. Some people have been talking about Barry Hearn and some things Barry Hearn's been saying recently, which I might do a video on separately. But one thing I can tell you about Barry Hearn, for the American viewers and listeners who have never seen Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn's dad. Barry, if you don't like Eddie Hearn and you think Eddie Hearn is cocky and whatever, and a used car salesman, this is something so many American fans are saying. If you think Eddie Hearn is cocky and he's a used car salesman, you don't want to see his dad. Barry Hearn, Eddie Hearn's dad, he is like Eddie Hearn on steroids. Like, Barry Hearn is so over the top that British fight fans, the majority of them, cannot stand Barry Hearn at this point. Whenever Barry Hearn does an interview on IFL, it just gets dislike bombed. You understand? Just nothing but dislikes. Because the hype talk that Barry Hearn comes out with is unpalatable even for British fans. Like, it's so over the top in terms of his hype talk. People can't take it. Me personally, I think Barry Hearn is hilarious. He does talk a lot of rubbish at times, but I find it entertaining, you know. Anyway, let me know what you feel about everything I've discussed in this video. It's happening, I'm out.